Alrighty, it's been a while, y'all. Sorry it's been a while, but I have had a very busy past few weeks. I have released my 7th book. I have had a lot of projects to do for my regular day job. And on top of that, we've been having work done on the house. And so it's just been chaos. All right, so I'm going to be making a recipe from my great-grandmother's cookbook. Remember the wood stove cookbook, the one that had the recipe for the cinnamon rolls that were so amazing? Well, I decided I wanted to try another recipe in this cookbook, but this time it is for donuts. There's 2 donut recipes. There's a regular donut recipe, which looks to me a lot like the old-fashioned cake donut from Dunkin' Donuts. That's what the ingredients seem like. And then there's yeast donuts. I want to do something quick, so I'm going to make the one that's just the donuts, which is a cake donut recipe. And because this recipe is written to make up to 30 donuts, we don't need 30 donuts. So I'm cutting the recipe in half. But in the show notes below, I will put the full recipe and the half recipe, so then you can decide how much you want to make. So I've got some oil heating in a cast iron skillet over here, which I'll let you see once it's time to get the dough in it. But I'm going to go ahead and start mixing up these ingredients. And again, this is half of the recipe. So it's going to call for 1 1/4 cups of flour. Let's see, I already have a measuring cup in here. Okay, there's 1, and there we go. There's 1/4 cup. All right. And I'm actually going to bring you in closer over here so that you can see better. All right, how's that? All right, so we have 1 1/4 cups of flour. I'm going to be putting in 1/4 cup of salt, and then about half of a teaspoon of salt. So about 1/4 teaspoon of salt and about half of 1/4 teaspoon, because it calls for 1/2 teaspoon. Oh no, it calls for 3/4 teaspoon. So, all right. So here is 1/4 teaspoon, and so now I'm going to get about half of 1/4 teaspoon, because this would be about half total of 3/4 teaspoons. All right. I also need to get 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. So I have to get actually 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, because the recipe calls for half, so I need to do 1/4. So 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. And this is the thing that really makes me think this is going to be like the old-fashioned cake donuts at Dunkin' Donuts, because of course they have a very nice nutmeg flavor to them. All right, and then a teaspoon of baking powder, which is right here. Baking powder. And now I just need to sort of sift this up. And make sure these dry ingredients are mixed together really well. Alrighty. So now it says to cream together the shortening and the sugar, but of course I don't use shortening, so I'll be using butter and 1/4 of a cup of sugar. Right. And I need to actually soften this a bit because it's pretty cold. All right. So this butter is softened. I'm going to go ahead and add in the 1/4 cup of sugar, and this is 1/8 of a cup. So I'm going to get 2 of these to add in we have the butter here. This is 1/8 of a cup, and another 1/8 of a cup. So there we have 1/4 of a cup of sugar. And I'm just going to mix this just like this, because do I really need to get the mixer out to mix together butter and sugar? And I don't think so. I think I can just do it like this. And then I'm going to need to add an egg and get that mixed in. And then I will be adding all of that to this flour mixture along with 1/4 of a cup of milk. So I think this is probably fine for the butter and sugar mixture. Okay, I'm going to get that egg and crack it in there and get that mixed up. I can't wait to see how these are going to be, y'all, because I am such a fan of those old-fashioned donuts. I know a lot of people don't like the cake donuts, but I love the old-fashioned. I love them with cinnamon. I love them with powdered sugar. I love them just by themselves. They are so good to me. Now I'm just mixing this in with the sugar and with the butter. Let me put this paper towel down. Let's see. And this seems fine to me, so I'm going to just pour this in here. And I'm going to go ahead and mix this together. You see how that's just coming together a little bit. But now I'm going to go ahead and add that 1/4 of a cup of milk. And at this point, I just need to keep mixing this until it forms enough of a dough that I can roll out and then use what it calls for a donut cutter, but I don't have a donut cutter. I have my cookie cutters that have different sizes, so I'll use a larger ring and a smaller ring to make the donuts. Let me just get this mixed up. I have no idea how much these are going to puff up. I have no idea how they're going to taste. This is going to be very exciting just to find out all of those answers. I'm going to put this piece of paper down and just get out a little bit of flour for rolling the dough. had to give a little taste to that dough, y'all, when I put the fork in the sink just now, and that dough is good. And it does remind me of the cake donuts from Dunkin' Donuts, but it might even be better. We're going to find out. And these are my trusty cookie cutters. I use these for cutting biscuits. I use them for cutting donuts. I use them for cutting all kinds of things. I love these, so I will definitely link these down below. I don't know how thin these are supposed to be, y'all, so I guess I'm just going to have to test it and find out. And I'm also going to have to check that oil and make sure the oil seems hot enough, which I'll do here in just a minute. Well, it's definitely sending a lot of bubbles to the wood from that chopstick. Let me try this a little pinch. It says you can test it by taking a little piece of dough and see if it turns golden brown within a couple of minutes. So that's what I'm going to do. And meanwhile, while that's happening, I reckon I will go ahead and get a cookie cutter. Probably get this smaller one. There we go. All right. Okay, that's going to be as many as I can get for right this minute. Let me test this donut. Little piece. Okay, it's not quite golden brown. And naturally, all this little dough that's going to come out of that little donut hole thing can be pressed into another donut. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 8. So I should still be able to get 7 more donuts out of this. And I'm skeptical, but we're going to see. All right. I've been waiting, and I'm not really sure if this oil is hot enough yet. I took out that one little crumb, one little bit, and it took a while to kind of get golden, and then it was kind of crispy, and I don't want that. So I turned the oil up so it would get hotter, and it seems really hot. But we're going to see what happens. It might be that these kinds of donuts are just supposed to be a little bit crispy and not like what we think of. But I don't know, because this is a recipe I've never tried it before. I'm just dusting my fingers with a little bit of flour before I pick these up because it's kind of a little tiny bit of a sticky dough. Let's see. That one looks about done. They look like they're puffing up pretty good. We'll see how they are. Okay, so now I'm just going to take this dough and get this rolled back out again so I can cut out some more donuts. And here is how they look so far, coming out of the oil. Okay. Roll this out real quick. Here we go. These are seeming to get ready a lot quicker. right, just this last little bit here. I think I'm just going to make this one big donut because there's no need to cut more out of this one. And of course I got to sneak that last little piece of dough. I'm going to go ahead and turn this oil off because that's the end of the donuts. And then I'm just going to have to try one, huh? I'll let you know how they are. And then, of course, we know that I can put powdered sugar on these, or I can put cinnamon sugar on them, and they'll be delicious, I'm sure. But let me just see. Let me take this one out. That's a nice big one. All right. I'm kind of nervous because I don't know how these are going to be. They might not be good, but I'm going to find out. Well, it's kind of hot. Let me get a different one. That's pretty good. That is very good, y'all. I like that a lot. It is definitely an old-fashioned cake donut. It doesn't taste like the ones at Dunkin' Donuts. It doesn't have that same really dense texture, and it doesn't have the outer surface is not the same. This has a little tiny bit more crunch on the outside, but that might be entirely my fault because I don't have any thermometer that tests the temperature of the oil, and the recipe doesn't even say the temperature that the oil should be. But it just says to test it and to see if it browns quickly. So anyway, I like it. I think it's good. It's not the same as the Dunkin' Donuts Old Fashioned, but this is one I would make again. And I'm going to have to try some of these with powdered sugar and cinnamon. Well, there you have it, friends. Delicious old-fashioned donuts made from a cookbook that's about 100 years old. Definitely had them with some powdered sugar, and I loved them. Next time I'll try them with some granulated sugar, maybe some cinnamon. So many different ways that I can try these. Another thing that I'll do next time is I will probably use a little bit more flour or a little bit less milk. Or I just might make the batch of donuts according to the recipe rather than making them cut in half so that it's a smaller batch. So I hope you try these, and I hope you let me know what you think in the comments below. I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.